fall of 1984. So they have, 8 months? 8 months to do everything. And another big thing was they didn't even have an effects house. The major special effects house in Hollywood at the time was Industrial Light and Magic, which was, founded by George Lucas. And they had done all the work on, the Star Wars films and Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. They had done Raiders of the Lost Ark at that point. But that was really the only big special effects house at the time, and they were in production on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which came out the same summer as Ghostbusters, which is one of the films that was responsible for establishing the PG-13 rating, because Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is pretty intense. And it's weird because I had seen Raiders of the Lost Ark at that point. If I can go off on a tangent here for a moment. Sure. I had seen Raiders of the Lost Ark because when Temple of Doom came out, I remember my parents watching it, and then, them coming home from, seeing the movie, and me, just being completely hey, when are you going to take me to see Indiana Jones? I really want to see Indiana Jones. And my mom was kind of I don't know about that. There's people getting their hearts ripped out and people getting eaten by crocodiles. I don't know. That might be a little too intense for you. But this was just before Ghostbusters had come out. And if I was that big of an Indiana Jones fan, then I had to have seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is fairly intense. So, I don't know what my parents' rationale was at that point in time. But Temple of Doom was one of the films responsible for the PG-13 rating coming about. And that's the end of my tangent. Industrial Light and Magic was working on the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, so they were unavailable to do the effects for Ghostbusters. And Ghostbusters obviously was going to need a lot of effects work. They got lucky, though, because one of the guys at ILM, a guy by the name of Richard Edlund, was going to be leaving ILM. And in doing so, he actually was able to bring a lot of the ILM guys with him. And he had talked to Reitman, and Reitman was saying, what can we do to, get you what you need? And I think that Edlund had said, hey, I want to establish my own special effects company. I need $5 million to do that. So the Columbia Pictures approved budget of $25 million kind of got up to $30 million. And the $5 million of that was to establish Boss Films, which was Edlund's new special effects house. But they got lucky. They got a lot of good effects guys to come over from ILM with Richard Edlund. And I think the special effects in the movie are awesome. I know it's a movie from 37 years ago, so you kind of have to look at it through that lens and realize that that's what effects looked like before there was computer animation. But I think the effects in the movie are great.
Yeah, like you were saying, for that period in time, they were fantastic.
Yeah. And the funny thing, watching the movie, and then watching the making of stuff in prep for the show, a lot of the effect shots are pretty quick in the movie, and the reason for that was they were on such a tight schedule that they really didn't have time to kind of play around with a lot of stuff. So a lot of the special effects shots are, they're there and then there's a cut. They don't show a whole lot of them. And even the fact that a lot of the effects had to kind of be done and storyboarded beforehand meant that they couldn't really change a whole lot. They kind of had to shoot what they were supposed to shoot, and they couldn't play around. They couldn't add scenes because all the effects had to have been done, a lot of them beforehand. And they were rushing to get everything done in the short amount of time that they had.
I think the Proton Packs, the special effects used for that kind of hold up still.
Yeah. Oh man, the Proton Packs. What really holds up for me is the library ghost in the very beginning.
Oh yeah.
Even before it gets scary, just when it's floating there reading the book.
Yeah.
It looks amazing. And then it freaks out when they get close to it, and it turns scary.
Well, because they have that idea to they're basically trying to rush it, and then it gets offended, and then scares them off.
They try talking to it at first,
yeah,
rationally, and they get zero response. I think at one point it even shushes them. So, Bill Murray says, oh, I have an idea, come here. And then they, or no, not Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd says, oh, yeah, I have an idea. And they go and they talk about it, and then they rush out. And then it gets scary, and they all go running out of the library. The opening is great. It's got that great opening shot of the lion in front of the New York Public Library. Mm-hmm. And it's got the really good, kind of sinister Elmer Bernstein score.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's the librarian walking through the library, putting stuff away, and then she's in the lower part of the library, in the basement, really. And you see the books move behind her. You see the cards start coming up. And then she rounds the corner, and you just see the purple glow on her face. You don't actually see the go sequence. But it's the ghost in the beginning, that library ghost, looks incredible. And you're right, the Proton Packs look awesome. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man at the climax is awesome.
Oh yeah, that's I'm not sure if this is true for you or not, but for me, when I think of Ghostbusters, I think about the great library scenes, and then the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah.
And of course Slimer, but you don't see him as much as later on in the cartoons.
Yeah, no, Slimer got really popular because of the cartoon.
Yeah.
Even in the movie, he doesn't have a name. I was reading he was just referred to as the Onion Head Ghost because I think he gave off a really pungent smell. Mm-hmm. In the script, I think there's a scene in the hotel with a couple in their room, and he menaces them, and he's supposed to have a pungent smell, so they refer to him as the Onion Head. It wasn't until a cartoon that he got the name Slimer, and kind of became the I don't want to say the face of the franchise, but kind of came that synonymous with that movie. But he's really only in scene at the hotel, which we gotta break down because that's my favorite scene in the movie. Mm-hmm. He's really only in that scene at the hotel, and then at the very end, when the movie's over, and then you have that kind of sinister score kick back in, and then he flies at the camera before it cuts to black.
Well, there's that little insert shot where when they shut down the machine that's kind of keeping all the ghosts contained, they end up releasing Slimer, and then he goes to like some hot dog cart.
Yes, he's in a hot dog cart. That's right.
Yeah.
And then Slimer, we should point out, is an homage to John Belushi. They had him designed, and then they were kind of like, oh, you know, make him kind of look like John Belushi. And the whole thing with him eating, when you see him at the hotel, he's like real gluttonous, mm-hmm. eating the food off the carts. And then even when they have him in the ballroom, he's drinking the wine, which is going right through him, if you notice that. The wine is leaking all over the tablecloth underneath him.
Uh-huh.
And then, he's in the hot dog cart. But that's all an homage to John Belushi in Animal House, because there's a scene in Animal House and Belushi's in the cafeteria, and he's trying all this food, and he's just kind of scarfing it all down. So they start up the Ghostbusters. It's funny because there's a scene where they talk about they don't know where they're going to get the money to do it, and then it immediately cuts to them walking out of the bank. And Dan Aykroyd just took like a third mortgage out on his home.
Yeah.
To get the money. And he's like, oh, you know, Bill Murray tells him, everyone has 3 mortgages these days. And he tells Bill Murray, like, you didn't even bargain with the guy. You just took him at like 20% or 19%, like whatever the crazy interest rate is. And it turns out, I think Egon says it's going to be like $95,000 just for like the first few years alone. So, anyways, they start up the Ghostbusters. They don't really, you know, have much business. Their first customer is Sigourney Weaver when, you know, she has the encounter in her apartment for the first time where she has the groceries and the eggs start popping out of the carton and cooking on the counter. You know, she hears the growl inside the refrigerator. Opens it up, and that effect is awesome. Where she opens up the refrigerator and you kind of see the temple inside the refrigerator. Mm-hmm. And then you see the dog, and the dog says Zool. Like, those effects are really good. And she goes to see the Ghostbusters. That's when you get she's like their first customer. And then Venkman says, oh, well, you know, they're talking to her, they're talking about what they could look up. And then Venkman decides to go to her apartment to check it out. And then it's so funny because I think a lot of that sequence is improv. Like a lot of the stuff that Murray's doing in there. Mm-hmm. The way when he walks through the door, he immediately tries to open up the closet to kind of rouse the ghost. And then he's doing the thing with the piano keys, and he's got the little air blower. And it's so funny because if you watch Sigourney Weaver in that scene, she so clearly knows that he's full of shit. Like she's not buying any of it. And Venkman's trying to hit on her. It's really weird. He goes to check out a room, and she says it's the bedroom, but nothing ever happened in there. He's like, oh, what a crime. And she's completely rolling her eyes at him.
Yeah, they kind of play up his Murray's character as the kind of playboy of them all.
Yeah. Yeah, because even in the beginning when he's doing the ESP test with the cards on the two college